So the first phase is all about networking and building your network and building a successful social sales network with past, present, future potential customers. And what networking is all about is basically interacting with others, exchanging information, and developing professional or social contacts, I suppose. But before you, I would recommend before you even begin this networking phase, and before you begin to interact with potential contacts, you need to ensure that you and your business has a professional presence across your social networks, and that they position you as an expert, or showcase your experience in your field, and establish that credibility first and foremost. So what I would say is, ensure whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Twitter or Facebook, ensure whatever platform you're using, ensure your profiles are optimized. And what I mean by that is, ensure every section is completed. As tedious as that sounds, make sure you're using the right type of profile photos, banner photos, um, add a bit of personality into your business description, into your personal description, sort of convey what it would be like to work with you, and work with your business, and write sections with prospects in mind, like Max Mankier's example. He's helps companies and startups and countries commercialize innovation and get products. So he has written his descriptor there, or tagline, with the end user in mind. Startups, normal companies who want to commercialize new technology or innovations and get these new products to market. So make that a feature right throughout your whole profile, and use keywords, use industry relevant keywords, use keywords that people will be searching the internet for, or using Google to search for, or using one of the social media platforms to search for. Facebook has a search platform, Twitter does, LinkedIn does specifically as well. So if you have the right keywords within your profile, you will be found. And you can use various tools to find out what the most popular keywords are for your search term. For example, you can use Google Keyword Planner. You can also use Ubersuggest, which both are free to a certain extent. And you can use those to find out what the most popular keywords are. So once your online brand and your online social profiles are optimized and fit for purpose, and position you as an expert in your field, then what you want to do is start building that network, and knowing who your ideal prospects are, and what content they want to see, what social networks they're on is key, as well. And as looking at the customer journey and how social media can kind of influence that customer journey. So like one of the first things you can do is look at your existing customers. Where do they, I suppose, hang out online? What social platforms are they on? What uh, content do they like? How and why do they use social media for their business? Do they use LinkedIn on a daily basis? Who do they follow on social media? Who do they engage with? You can simply find this out by looking on LinkedIn and connecting with that person, and then seeing where they comment and so on. And you can start to build a profile then of who your ideal prospect is. And for us marketers, we don't really have to guess anymore or make assumptions as to who your audience is. There's data there, it's readily available. Each social network has analytics built into it, which provides a ton of valuable information about who your followers are, what city or town they live in, when they're online, how they interact with brands, and how they interact with your brand, and how they interact on social. In general, you can use like Google Analytics if you had installed on your website, which gives you a breakdown of who visits your website by age, location, gender, by what traffic source or what social media platform they've came from. If you're using a CRM system within your business or an ERP system, you can also mine that data for insights and a picture of who your customers actually are. At the very least, you can have a conversation with your customers. Ask them platforms they're using in a conversational way. And this can all help build a profile of your ideal prospect. And once you have that profile of who your ideal prospects are, you can then turn it into what we call an audience persona, what the market calls an audience or a marketing persona. So I'm not going to get into sort of audience personas that much, but we can see then, if you have an ideal picture of who your target audience is or who your ideal prospect is, it obviously makes making that connection much easier because you know where to go, you know where to look for. Other ways of building a successful social sales network is to basically connect with existing customers and prospects. As simply as that, add them as a connection. And social networks, and particularly LinkedIn in a B2B context, are all about building connections with people, growing your network and positioning yourself as the expert or an expert in your field. So how can you effectively grow your network? Well, connecting with your existing customers is a first port of call. And if you are connecting with them, be sure to personalize that sort of connection request. And even if you're connecting with prospects, definitely personalize that connection request. If it's on LinkedIn, if it's on Facebook or Twitter, it's a little bit more impersonal, but LinkedIn, which is predominantly the B2B social selling network or B2B professional network, it's great for opening the door to professional opportunities. So approach these new connections with caution, I would say. A bit like if you were networking face to face with somebody at a trade show, you don't just hand over your business card without, speaking to them. And on LinkedIn and online, don't send out mass connection requests. Personalize that connection on LinkedIn. You can personalize that connection. You can send them a note as to, why you want to contact them. Don't think about, think about why you want to connect with them. Do your research and demonstrate, I suppose, a genuine interest in what they do, and introduce yourself. Don't expect them to know who you are already on this personalization request. Send a short message explaining who you are, how you know them maybe, or why you would like to connect. Maybe start a discussion or to pick their interest or offer a point of view on something that they're interested in. Offer them some sort of value. In this example here from George Vyas, it says, he says that this is somebody he's met at a conference, and he says, that your team is experimenting with new design strategies. I've worked with other design teams earlier this year with similar challenges. I'd love to share some insights. So that is a great way to connect with somebody. Offering them some sort of value. Other ways to build a network are, you can invite anyone that's maybe telephone number you have on your smartphone, anybody that has an email associated with LinkedIn, and you have their email, you can connect with them. You can also look at, if you were to want to connect with a specific company, you can look at people who you share a connection with. So if you're a second rate connection or a third rate connection, you can get people to connect with you via a connection. And it's important to note to build quality connections as opposed to as many connections as possible. It really is a case of quality over quantity, and vanity metrics are slowly dying on social media. Just a few other points as well of building a successful social sales network. You can use the LinkedIn search tools to discover new connections. You can search by profession, you can search by industry, location, you can even search by company. I would also recommend following and engaging with other businesses and their content. Be part of the conversations that are being had on social media, talking about industry news, industry topics. I know Brexit was obviously one at the moment. As I mentioned before as well, you can use some premium tools to listen and monitor keywords and trends on social media. For example, some key social listening tools are Sprout Social, BuzzSumo, and Hootsuite. They're all very good for listening and monitoring what people are saying through keywords and hashtags and so on. There's also a lot of private professional groups with like-minded individuals and individuals from your industry on LinkedIn and on Facebook. And again, you can do simple searches within the LinkedIn and Facebook search bar. Join the group, be part of the conversation as well. And I suppose what I would say is proactively creating these connections is almost like a culture shift within, or a culture shift, or even a change in mindset within companies who maybe haven't practiced social selling. And it does really need to become a habit. You do need to get into the habit of sending connection requests and personal connection requests, whether it's after initial contacts, whether it's you schedule time into the workday or the work week for this prospecting exercise, and engaging with content, and putting it into your daily routine, where you go onto LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or whatever it is, and you comment and you share content and so on. So and offer insights and opinions to help build this trust with your prospects. And the key about building social successful social sales networks is about sharing content at the end of the day. Sharing content that your audience engages with, and that develops deeper relationships, which is the next stage of the social selling funnel. But before we get to that, let's look at just some platforms that you can obviously build your social sales network on. And 3 key networks that I've seen, certainly for B2B companies in Northern Ireland, and the 3 key ones in my experience would be LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. These 3 social networks, so they're all very different, and they all have very different reasons, or various reasons where customers use them. The expectation on each platform is different. For example, the content that's delivered, the people on these platforms are different. So, LinkedIn is obviously a professional social network where you interact with people on a professional basis. It's professional content and so on. Whereas Twitter is a really sort of fast-paced social network where it's really a combination of mostly maybe consumer and brands and news, as opposed to professional network. The average company utilizing Twitter would tweet maybe 12 times a day. And that's due to the fast-paced nature of Twitter. You have 280 characters and so on. So obviously a very different channel from LinkedIn. And then Facebook is similar to the way LinkedIn operates, but obviously it's a place where people go to interact with friends, interact with brands, and so on. So there's a different expectation when people are using Facebook than Twitter and LinkedIn. I have seen all 3 networks work for a variety of B2B businesses. So what I would say is choosing your channel is important. Look at your resources. Can you do all 3 well? Should you just pick one and focus on one for social selling? Because you want to do one right rather than 3 half right. And the key, the most important element is to choose a platform where your prospects are. If your prospects aren't on Twitter or Facebook, don't waste your time there. Focus on LinkedIn and vice versa with the other platforms. I have a networking example just for you to check out here. So say for example, I'm a telecoms provider, and I want to really work with companies that have over 50 or 100 employees in an office-based setting, 200 employees, whatever it is. What I can do is I can use the LinkedIn search there, so you can see I can search by company. So I've searched for the Mac Group. I can search for construction companies. They tend to have a lot of office staff, and I can type in whatever keyword it is there, and I can filter by company size. I can filter by location. I can filter by industry, and so on. So one way to seek out prospects to connect with. Another way is that if you have a company in mind that you want to work with, if you have a database of 20 companies that you want to start selling to, you can search for that company here, and you can view all 147 employees on LinkedIn. So you can sift through those employees. Again, you can filter them by title, by what industry or what profession they're in, finance, operations, whatever it is. So you can do that, and then you can send a personal connection request to the decision maker or the influencer in the decision making process. And as well as that, then you can just engage with their general posts. So here's a post here of projects that they've recently committed or launched. So what you can do is you can like the post, you can comment on the post, you can see who's posting on it as well, and seek out whether they may be prospects or potential prospects, and just become visible to the company by commenting on their posts. So that's a way to network successfully on LinkedIn, for example.